your Bible to 1 Timothy, chapter 6. Very familiar verses. I think the verse that highlights this section are really the first verse, which we recognize, but the last verse is really the highlight of it, where it talks about the love of money being the root of all evil. We recognize that verse. This church had a problem. The people loved money, which of course is not a problem we have today. No one loves their money today, right? Well, we have the same problem today. It's not a new problem. It's an old problem. It's been a problem forever. It will continue to be a problem until we go to heaven and recognize what Christ did for us and what all this is about. I think mankind will have a problem with money. I think it all goes into humanism, if you will, and different religions that are around this world. Even to the point of thinking of evolution and what they talk about. That's nothing more than just a religion. And it's about the survival of the fittest. Get everything you can. Get rid of those that get in your way. Have everything that this world has to offer. That's mankind. That's Satan. That's this world. The Bible clearly states we should not love money. The believer shouldn't. It's hard to separate ourselves from our flesh that desires to do that, but we should not do that. Jesus said, where your treasure is where your heart will be also. So go through your checkbook. You'll find out where your heart is. You'll find out what you care about. The average person, according to polls, thinks about money 50% of their waking time. That's an interesting stat, isn't it? I don't know how they come up with that poll or figured out that's how often people think about it, but that's the result of their poll. Take that and then read through the Bible and see what it says about money. Proverbs 8:21. To those who love me, I will fill up their treasures. Having money is not wrong. Jesus is the one, God is the one that supplies it to you. And if you have money, it's not that you're living a life of sin necessarily. God has blessed some people with money, and it's fine. You don't have to love it, though. Some people just have that innate ability to just touch something and it turns into gold, doesn't it? And I know many people that have had tremendous amounts of money that then used it in tremendous ways to further the gospel throughout this world. Deuteronomy 8, God gives you the power to get the money. You don't do it on your own. Matthew chapter 19, verses 27 through 30 says, we have forsaken all and followed you. Those people didn't love their money. They were willing to forsake it all. Follow Christ. We're not to cling to it. We're not to have the love of money make us go against the will of God. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 17, which is where we're at. It says, charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. We should not substitute money for trust in God. Luke chapter 6 and verse 28. You should not hoard money, but give generously. And the overreaching or the overarching principle, if you will, is the love of money is the root of all evil. If you don't love money, then the attitudes that attach themselves to the love of money will be lost on you. And that's the important thing, because we're going to talk about what the love of money does and talk about the sins that the love of money brings. So I'll make it clear to begin with, having money does not mean you're sinful. It's the love of that money that makes people sinful and causes them to commit horrible sins. So in verse number 10, where it says, for the love of money, the word in the Greek means affection for silver. That's money. Our money used to have silver in it. It doesn't have silver in it anymore. But that's what it is. There's nothing wrong with that. It's dangerous, though. Having money and not sinning with it is tough. You must be filled with the Spirit. And then it says, for the love of money is the root. The word root is the source. If you love money, then there's nothing that will stop you from pursuing it. There's nothing that can get in your way. You will do anything and everything you can to grasp a hold of it. And frankly, there's no kind of evil or sin that people won't commit to grasp a hold of that money if they love it. And every conceivable sin has been done in pursuit of money. People who love money will take bribes, distort justice, manipulate, take advantage of the poor, lie, cheat, extort, deceive, steal, rob, abuse. They'll commit fornication or adultery. They'll do bodily harm. They'll commit murder. I'll also tell you that those that love money will teach false doctrines for the sake of money. In many cases, that's a great way to gain money. As a pastor, I will teach false things to prey upon other people. That's why it's so sad to me when I see different people on the TV or wherever it's at, magazines, whatever it is. You send me money and God will give you tenfold or whatever it is. You give me money and I'll pray for you and you'll be healed. They prey most often upon the poorest people in America. Steal their money from them so that they can have whatever it is they think they need. Their pursuit of everything that this world gives. How do you know if you love money then? That's a pretty good question for us, isn't it? How do I know if I love money? Well, do you spend time wondering how to get more money or how to do a good job? I can tell you as a minister, I have tried to be more concerned about being an excellent minister than to put a price on what I receive for it. I know my brother, at one point in time, he interviewed to be a pastor at a church, and they didn't choose him. They chose someone else to be the minister of that church. When they offered that minister their salary structure, that minister said, "Oh, that's not enough money. I need more." "Well, we don't have any more to give you." "Then I can't come be your minister." "Well, what's your reason for being called into that ministry over there?" If God is calling you, then the money shouldn't have a real factor into that. I know we need to live and, we need to make it in this world, but if we can't trust God, if our ministers can't trust God to take care of us, how would anybody else be that way? So my brother was second option. They offered him the job. And he accepted it. One of the reasons I don't charge to do some of the things that a lot of ministers charge for is because I don't want to put that monetary value upon those things. I don't charge to perform weddings. I don't charge to perform funerals. I don't charge to perform counsel to people. If you go to most churches across America, you won't find that to be true. You want counseling from that minister? He will tell you exactly how much it's going to cost you, or he's not going to see you. Same thing with a wedding or a funeral. I don't want to place money into those parts. Matter of fact, you guys give to the church already, right? Which is where my salary comes from the church. Why do I need more to help you along the way in your life's journey to be godly? Or in your wedding, or whatever it is. So people come to me, how much do you charge, Pastor Matt, to do a wedding? I don't charge anything. If you give me something, many times it ends up in the offering plate. Should not be that. Now I'll tell you, I think many ministers lose tremendous blessings from God because they're in it for the money and not for ministry. So you love money when you sin to obtain it. That's a good way to check to see if you love money or not. So Paul, here in 1 Timothy chapter 6, has been telling about false teachers and those false teachers who are motivated by their own personal gain. Remember that? That's verses 4 and 5 in particular. They were giving false things just so that they could receive things. So on the heels of that, then he says in verse number 6, but godliness with contentment is great gain. When I say that the false teacher who supposes that his godliness will bring gain, he's wrong. As far as earthly things go, your godliness is not going to bring you any kind of earthly gain. All God promises is that he'll take care of you. But only godliness will bring true gain, which is things that last for eternity. Your love of money will never give you eternal gain. It'll give you things here on this earth. We should be thinking about eternal things. So what is the nature of money love? Well, it ignores true gain. But, there in the Greek, de means indeed. Indeed what? Godliness means reverence, piety, godliness. So, indeed, godliness or reverence with contentment. In the Greek, it means self-sufficiency. That person is not motivated by his circumstances. His circumstances aren't going to push him one way or the other. God is the one that's going to do it. You are sufficient. You seek nothing more. You're content with what you have. Philippians 4 says, I know in whatsoever state I am, I have learned to be content. I know how to be abased. I know how to abound. Everywhere, in all things, I am instructed to be full, to be hungry, to abound, to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So many people are discontent with where they're at in this world. And Paul is really saying here, if you love money, you're going to pursue something that you'll never gain. You'll never have it. I mean by that? So, you aspire, if you will, to gain a lot of money. And you might gain a lot. A lot is all relative, isn't it? You know, if you have $10 million in the bank, to me that seems like a lot of money. That seems like a lot of money. You know what $10 million means to Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or any of those guys? They make that in an hour. And that's the literal truth, right? They have a crazy amount of money. It's insane what they have. They're billions of dollars. And if you have $10 million in the bank, you know what? And if you've been pursuing that your whole life, $10 million isn't going to be enough. It never ends up being enough. We always want more, more, more. I can't get enough. I need more. And that's what he's saying here. Godliness with contentment is great gain. If you have no godliness and you have no contentment, then you're going to pursue money and you're going to pursue all the things here on this earth, and you'll never be content. You know what, those guys, they buy these great big huge yachts and they buy all these things and they get bored with them and they need a bigger and better yacht. And then they fly themselves up into space, and that's not enough. They'll need to go to the moon next or Mars. It'll never be enough. True godliness is great gain because true godliness brings contentment. True godliness and true gain is unrelated to how much you have. Hebrews 13:5 says, "And be content with such things as you have, for he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you." And it's amazing because the thing that people aspire to have, especially in America, we are so rich in America. The things we aspire to have, you would probably actually obtain financially if you simply followed the idea of contentment. Why is it that a lot of people don't have things that they really, really, really want? Probably because they're $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 in credit card debt or car debt or whatever. And all they do is pay their credit cards and all their interest that they have on those. Whereas if they would just store up some money first, be content with the car that they have, and then be able to buy something and not have all that debt and everything that goes with it, they probably actually start to attain a lot of the things that they really want. But they're not content, so they just go out and spend all their money first and then can never catch up. But for the believer, what does he do? Well, he should fill himself with the Holy Spirit, which leads to godliness. Godliness leads to being content with what I have. What has God, what lot has he given me in this life? I'm happy with that. I don't need any more. It is enough. And by the way, people who love money and have been the richest of all time have said these words. Listen to this. This is Vanderbilt. "The care of millions of dollars is too great a load. There's no pleasure in it." Let me tell you what he wrote back in the days where being a millionaire is like being a billionaire today. Jacob Astor, "I am the most miserable man on earth." Another millionaire, billionaire nowadays. Henry Ford, "I was happier when doing mechanics work." I just want to go off into the garage and work on a car now. All this stuff that I have and all these assembly lines that I got to keep going and all the problems, you know, those first Ford Model T cars, they didn't last very long. There was all kinds of problems with them. He had to continually fix them. It was easier just to go off and be a mechanic, have a simple life, than to pursue all those riches. Because when you pursue, you'll just keep pursuing, and you'll pursue, and you'll pursue, and you'll never reach it. So the second thing then that money love does is it focuses on the temporal. Look at verse number 7. For we brought nothing into this world. Guess what? You came into this world naked. Pretty confident when I say that. And you know what's going to happen when you leave this world? You're not taking any of it with you. It's staying here. No matter how hard you try, it will stay here. And that's what the second part of that verse says, right? And it is certain we can carry nothing out. Won't take it with you. Ecclesiastes 5:15 says, And as he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor which he may carry away with his hand. Spending your whole life concerned about money is a life wasted. Because you can't take it with you. You can't take it out. Matthew 6 says, Do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust corrupt and thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust corrupt, where thieves do not break through and steal, for where your treasure is, that's where your heart is also. Mark 8:36, For what shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world, lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? If you're not prepared for eternity, that's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. When you pass away, if you have billions, but your soul's not ready to meet God, you're the poorest person that ever was. And you'll spend eternity poor. Third thing that love of money does is it obscures the simplicities of life. Look at verse number 8. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. If you have food and clothing, be content. That's the simplicity of life, isn't it? You know what? This rat race that we're in, and I know I get caught up in it sometimes. There's times when I just think, wouldn't it be nice not to have to go to work today and deal with all the problems there and all the messes that are there and just sell everything I got, take my wife with me, and move into the middle of the jungle and build a little shack and just live off the ground, no electricity, no internet. That kind of sounds nice once in a while. Just worry about nothing. I don't have to worry about an electric bill. I don't have to worry about my internet bill. I don't have to worry about Netflix. I don't have to worry about my Comcast. I don't have to worry about a car payment, a house payment. I don't have to worry about my propane payment. None of that stuff. Just go grow a garden, keep the deer out, shoot them when they come around so that I can have some meat. Whatever you're going to do. That sounds nice sometimes. When we do nothing but just struggle and struggle and struggle for money all of the time, it really takes out the simplicity of life, doesn't it? And what God desires for us here on this earth. God's desire is that we would be godly and have contentment. And the most important thing is that we give Him glory. We get so lost in all the other things that we forget that we're here to glorify God. We're not here to gain the world. Do you have food? Do you have clothing? Notice it doesn't even say a roof over your head, does it? It just says food and clothing. My eating. Be content with that. You should be satisfied with that. Now again, Paul is not condemning possessions. He is condemning the desire that rises out of that discontentment. That's why I don't have to walk around in rags. The most spiritual people on this earth are not necessarily those that just have rags. They might be, but it doesn't have to be that way. The reality is, all you have to do is make a little bit so that you can have some food and raiment, and the rest is all bonus blessings from God. The love of money is dangerous because of its effects. Look at verse number 9. But they that will be rich fall into temptation. When it says, but they that will be rich, in the Greek it literally means those that decide to be rich. Those that are greedy. And I can tell you, when I was youth pastor, I can't tell you how many times I heard teenagers tell me, I'm sick of my parents having nothing. I'm going to be a millionaire when I grow up. Like, you got the whole thing wrong. This is exactly the attitude that it's talking about here. They that will be rich, decide to be rich. They're greedy. You know what happens? They fall into temptation and a snare. That's sin. And what is that temptation and snare? And into many foolish and hurtful lusts. Foolishness. To think you need more money. Foolishness. To go after it with all you got and worrying about nothing else. And it's harmful lusts. You will be trapped and controlled by those desires. You will have evil impulses. You'll become irrational, and it becomes hurtful to you. And you know what it does to people? The end of that verse. Which drown men in destruction and perdition. Perdition is usually talking about the destruction of the soul. Those that go through this whole life on this earth, loving money and nothing but pursuing money, their end is destruction and the destruction of their soul. They probably won't find God. If you have all the money in the world, in many cases, you believe you don't need God. You've got the world by the tail. What do I need God for? Televangelist says if I give him money, he'll give me money back. Well, I don't need to give him money. I've already got $260 billion. Why do I need any more? I've got everything this world has to offer. I don't need God. I don't need what those people are portraying on the TV. Then verse number 10 gives us the illustration of what loving money does, and it takes us back to where we started. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which, while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith. I learned in college that real word is erred. That's how you pronounce it properly, in case you're wondering. They erred from the faith and perceived themselves and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. The love of money will make you err from the faith. You're not going to follow after God, because God's not about money. It's not his motivating factor. As a matter of fact, if this whole life on this earth was about money, then Christ would have had it all when he was here. And Christ was poor. He didn't have a house. He didn't have a place to lay his head. He didn't build himself up massive treasures and become King physically of great areas, take everything that was there, hoard all the gold. He could have done that, but he didn't. Because that's not what this life is about. And so it'll make you err from the faith, because people will choose money over God, and they'll depart from the truth. And they'll pierce themselves through with many sorrows. Instead of loving money, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. You will find the great peace, the joy, and the happiness that God has to offer. You know what will happen if you pursue money? You will pierce yourself through with many sorrows. How many of the richest people that have ever lived have no friends? How many people have won the lottery, became multimillionaires, and end up destroyed and distraught? Many. You know why? Because so many people love money that they just attack them. They try to steal their money. They try to go after their money. They're not really their friends. They just want their money. It's going to be a sad life for those people, and have been for those people. The secret of this life is godliness with contentment. Then you will have great gain, because you'll store yourself up treasures in heaven. And that's what will matter for eternity. Let's have a word of prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we do just thank you for this lesson that you've given to us. We thank you how you take care of us. I know, Lord, it's a hard sermon for me to preach. Preaching about money, I never like to do it. But it's there. And it's a real thing we need to talk about. Because that's what so many on this earth desire and go after. Father, I pray that we will pursue godliness. We'll pursue the contentment, knowing that you have given us what we need, knowing that you take care of us, knowing when it seems like we don't have anything and we're kind of down in this world, you'll take care. You'll provide. You promise to take care of our needs, not our wants. I pray, Lord, that as we consider those things, that we'll fill ourselves with your Spirit. Father, that we recognize that we don't have to be destitute and have nothing in order to be spiritual, but that when you do give, we'll recognize it's from you, and that we'll treat that money the correct way, that we won't love it, but that we will love you. Father, now we just ask these things in your name. Amen. All right, we do have a closing song. Because next week is Easter. We'll sing our last song for today, being 232, He Arose. We'll sing the first and last stanza.